Wonderful to be here at last. Though about 350 miles from my hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma, about 2 hours from my aunts and uncles and cousins in Kansas City, Missouri, and only in the foothills of the Ozark Mountains that I know and love from years living in Arkansas, Columbia feels awfully close to where I am from. Years by the sea in Boston have me missing my roots. And now I can imagine them stretching easily in a great network underground, creeping from western Missouri and Kansas, creeping up from Arkansas and Oklahoma, and joining here in Columbia, where I hope that my life and ministry will dig deep and grow tall and strong. How wonderful to be able to find real barbecue, gravy, taco bueno, to say y'all without being scorned. How refreshing to be landlocked again. There's just something about being in your own part of the world, the landscape, the culture, the weather, the speed of life. It makes a body feel rooted and at home. And of course, there's another reason why I feel at home here at the UU Church of Columbia. And it's not just because you are warm and welcoming and have a wonderful sense of kinship. I feel at home because our religious tradition is the home of my heart and soul. Because our UU congregations are refuge in a storm and beloved community and the base camp from which we climb. I feel at home because my faith has given me a portable sense of rootedness that I can take with me wherever I go. Comparative religious scholar William Cantwell Smith has said, faith at its best takes the form of a quiet confidence and joy which enables us to feel at home in the universe. Quiet confidence and joy, the ability to feel at home in the universe, that is a definition of faith I can get behind. That is actually my experience of our faith. It gives us roots. Roots that can extend deep underground, that can spread wide beneath us, that can hold us close and tie us together. This is why what we do here in religious community is so important, because it gives us roots in at least 3 ways. In a world that moves quick at a frenetic pace, our church grounds us in the spirit of love and compassion, in what truly matters. In a world obsessed with casual consumption and shallow fame, our church calls us to spiritual, intellectual, and emotional depth. And in a world that teaches us to fear the other rather than to love our neighbor, our church calls us to relationship, to authentic connection with one another, with our community, and with our world. Grounding, depth, connection. These are the roots of our faith that hold us close, what make us strong individually and together. These are why this place is so essential. A need for grounding was what hooked me into the church of my childhood, All Souls Unitarian in Tulsa. And it was actually what led me eventually into the ministry. When I was about 8 years old, my already active imagination took a turn for the metaphysical. Without warning, one day I moved from playing dress-up to pondering eternity. And that was scary for everyone involved. My parents just as much as I. And it shook me loose from the comfortable and carefree way of skipping across the Earth's surface. Suddenly I felt very worried that I might just fall off. float away into space. In an essay called Grounding the Spirit, ecofeminist theologian Sharon Betcher describes witnessing a similar experience in her 10-year-old daughter. She writes this: her legs tap dance under the sheets as her 10-year-old mind reels from her first contemplation of Googleplex. Wanting something to keep her from flying loose in the centrifugal forces that tug at body and bone and brain, she begs, "Make me heavy, Mama." "Okay, sweetheart," I say, "close your eyes." And we begin to imagine those elemental threads that spin a hammock for mortal bodies. "Feel how the sun makes you heavy with sleep," I tell her. "Feel how the cool ground under the apple tree invites you to sink down into the violets and creeping Charlie. Let the earth grow roots under you and tie you to its back. And then just back float until the moon comes out and begins to rock you to sleep." With a little whisper of a lullaby, she falls asleep in gravity's cradle, the grace of gravity. Returned to its rhythms, together we sleep like a baby. Googleplex, eternity, infinity, mortality. Perhaps there is an idea for each of us that at some point sends us spinning, that awakens us to the world of meaning-making questions that humans have wrestled with since the dawn of consciousness. For me, upon waking, I just wanted to go back to sleep. I needed to feel the earth growing roots under me, to rock me in a lullaby. Approaching the ultimately unknowable feels untethering and dangerous. It was not until I found roots that I was ready to tackle these ideas and questions that would soon become my world. What a gift, then. What a soul-saving gift to have a church to turn to. A liberal religious community to ground me in a way that I desperately needed. I truly believe that without the church, I might have withdrawn from the fullness of life, even if little by little. Consumed by fear or deadened of spirit, hopeless. There are plenty of people walking the earth under such conditions. But instead, my church helped me develop a vital spiritual life and a worldview firmly grounded in hope, compassion, gratitude. What a soul-saving gift. Being held in the arms of loving community helped me feel rooted and safe, gave me a place to ask my big questions without fear of falling off the earth. Having my questions validated by trusted adults and hearing their thoughts about those same questions gave me something to hold on to as I scrambled to find solid ground. Later on, learning about the rich theological tradition of our faith helped me feel less adrift. And this gift that I received as a child is the gift we have for all of our children. The same gift we each receive still if we are willing. Love, support, and a tradition of faith. Amid the rush of questions, we have compassion to center our thoughts. Amid the hustle and bustle of life, we have the radical message of irresistible and universal love to root our days. Often in our rush to embrace the whirling questions flying about, we forget that we have these roots to hold us close. But when we remember to ground our faith in the Unitarian Universalist message that all life is worthy, beloved, and deeply meaningful, we can go so much farther on our spiritual path through the wilderness of questions that drive us. It was the rooted spirit of my church that allowed me finally to turn toward my questions, to devote my life to them, rather than to deny them or cover them with a single-minded focus on wealth, or fame, or intellect, or any of the numerous false idols that alone we use to avoid truly encountering the mystery of ourselves and our world. This challenging encounter is also part of being spiritually rooted. For our roots do not only hold us safe and secure, they also call us deeper into the lived reality of love and loss, and into the rich soil of spiritual discovery, which may include enlightenment and dark nights of the soul. Trees with shallow root systems are easily knocked over in a storm, and so it is with our spiritual lives. If all we do is dally here or there without real engagement, we are lost. If we do not follow our chosen paths, even to the places that challenge us, how can we expect our faith to weather the struggles and sorrows of life? In our UU congregations, we talk a lot about walking together, even as our paths might diverge. The power of our roots calls us to live out that claim. We are in religious community in large part because we challenge each other to think more deeply, feel more deeply, search more deeply. We are here in spite of every influence otherwise, to pull each other closer and to create a culture of depth. An example, the day after my grandfather died, I had to run a few errands. And to be honest, I was glad for the distraction, anything to keep me from feeling the loss, anything to keep it unreal. So I ran around having the kind of polite daily interactions that are so common in our lives. Shopkeepers, shoppers, strangers, a nod, a smile, a how are you, fine thanks, how are you? And then that night, I had a conversation with a friend from my church. How are you? She asked. Fine, how are you? I said. And she just gave me a quiet look and pulled me down into a seat and eventually into the depths of my feeling. The conversation we had that night will stay with me forever. We talked about my grandfather's life. We talked about the process of dying, about the possibility of afterlife or lack thereof. We talked about eternity and the mystery of it all. And that conversation required feeling pain. It required difficult thoughts and questions about mortality. And it was a balm to my broken heart, bringing love and death to my loss. It was amazing. And I wonder how many people in your life can give you a conversation like that. I hope that you are counting some people in this room in your head. And I hope that together over time we can add even more to that list as we continually pull one another deeper. Because religious community done well gives us a grounded, safe place where we can venture more fully into the reality of life, which is wonder, which is terror, which is heartbreak, which is love. Here, like no other place in our lives, we finally let ourselves grapple with the questions of meaning that always arise from our days. And here, like no other place, we are encouraged to give more deeply of ourselves. For we are not here to travel the wildness of mystery alone, even as we sit beside one another. We are here to walk together, to share our experiences and insights with one another that all might grow and deepen. Because another truth about roots is that they connect us. Our Universalist heritage claims one shared human faith. It tells us that wherever we are bound together. It tells us that we are intertwined and strong, that none will be lost, none ever truly alone. It calls us to connection. And so I want to leave you with this image. The trembling giant is a colony of quaking aspen trees in Utah, and it is classified as one of the single largest living organisms on the planet, as well as one of the oldest. And the reason for both classifications is this: because it shares one giant root system. This forest of around 42,000 aspen trees is considered one living organism. Above ground, each tree stretches up into the sky, but below, they are entirely connected as one living thing. And we can take it that step further because when the individual trees die, the single root system sends up more stems. So that while each tree only lives for around 130 years, some scientists claim that the trembling giant itself could be as much as 1 million years old. 1 million years old. Because it is grounded in rich soil. Because it is deep of root. And because it is intertwined. This is why we need the roots and the leaves both. For when we plant a tree, two will grow. The one that lifts its leaves into the air, and the inverted one whose roots clutch the soil. We are each unique and beautiful as we stretch up to the sky. Beautiful, short-lived, unrepeatable. But deep below, we take root and are one. Weaved together, solid, steady, eternal. May it be so.